What is your reaction, Colonel, to these accusations that you hear that the strikes on the Jabalia refugee camp are hitting civilians and amount to a massacre by the IDF?
Hi, Erin. Sad images, really, at the human level. When I watch it and I detach myself from the reality that we are facing, I see sad events and I see people suffering, and that is not something that we intend to. What I could say to that man, without even a drop of cynicism, is you should have evacuated, you and your family. You shouldn't have been there. That doesn't mean that we wanted to kill anybody. It just means that when we warned Palestinians 2 weeks ago to evacuate that specific area because there was going to be major combat operations, they should have heeded the warning and they should have left.
Why shouldn't every American be bothered by what they see in this video, Mr. Blanche? Are you bothered by what you see in this video?
Absolutely. Every American should be bothered. But what should they be bothered by? They should be bothered that ICE is going on an isolated arrest to arrest a criminal, and they have zero support from law enforcement. ICE has a very tough job. It is very hard when they're walking trying to do their job, and there are agitators and rioters everywhere. These men and women are not protesting. They are not peacefully protesting. They are trying to impede and obstruct ICE, and it makes the job that our men and women have to do virtually impossible to do without interactions like that. And yes, yesterday's shooting was a tragedy. And yes, we feel a ton of sympathy for the family and friends of the deceased. But make no mistake about it, this was entirely avoidable. If we had a governor, if we had a mayor, if we had leadership in Washington and over Minnesota that actually cared about their citizens, this would never have happened because there would be law enforcement on the streets helping ICE.
Colonel Conricus, so the point, though, about wanting them to leave, I mean, these are 100,000 people in a refugee camp. By definition, they lack resources. Where were people like that supposed to go? Was it even reasonable to tell them to go? I mean, they don't have anything to begin with.
No, that is unfortunately not accurate at all. And if you'll let me, I'd like to explain why. If you look at the footage that you're showing, you don't see tents. This isn't some makeshift refugee camp. These are permanent dwellings of Palestinians living in a Palestinian-controlled area under Palestinian rule. These aren't refugees no more than my grandparents are refugees who came from Poland and Morocco in 1948. This is the time scope that we're talking about. These aren't refugees, and it's not a refugee camp any more than half of the population in modern Israel are refugees of the expulsion from Arab countries in 1948.
Mr. Blanche, the administration spent all day Saturday arguing that Alex Preddy posed a threat to law enforcement. What exactly do you see in that video that posed a threat to law enforcement?
Well, I'll tell you what I don't see, and I don't see protesting happening. And this narrative that what was happening on that yesterday morning, what was protesting interrupted by ICE, is not what we see. I also do not see a single state and local law enforcement officer there to help. And that should be the narrative that we're talking about, is that what we have is ICE doing isolated operations to get criminals off the street with zero cooperation from the governor, from leadership in Congress, or from the mayor. And so when you see what we just observed, was that peaceful protesting? Of course not. That was a very violent occurrence because ICE cannot do their job effectively when local law enforcement refuses to help. And that is what is so tragic about what happened yesterday and what's been happening in Minneapolis for the past several weeks, is that ICE is doing all of this work, doing their jobs, and local law enforcement are not being allowed to do a single thing to help. And that is dangerous, as we saw yesterday morning.